This is an organizing lecture for the Foundations of Astronomy unit in a Survey of Astronomy course. Unit 1 is the sky above and foundations of astronomy. There's a list of core themes and learning objectives that you can find in Study Guide 1, and they all correlate to different components and assignments that I've put in front of you this week. I wanted to start with the foundation of astronomy and kind of thinking about the global historic timeline of astronomy. An important thought I have here is, when did the sky begin? We're going to just consider the idea that the sky has been around the planets and everything in the cosmos for the entire time of the cosmos, right? So when we're looking at astronomy, we're looking at when did we as humans start looking at the sky and systematizing and keeping track of what we saw. The sky's been around forever. We don't have proprietary ownership of the sky. We can't really say that there's more than one right way of looking at the sky and interpreting the sky and using the sky. What we can get out of here, we're going to notice that Earth, we'll cover this in a couple of units. Earth was formed about 4.5 billion years ago, and the moon came along shortly thereafter. All right. And that was before life even happened on the planet. So life happened, and you can see that humans are essentially at 0 million years ago. We are new beings on the planet, essentially. Time goes quickly for us, right? We think a day is forever, an hour can be forever. But when we look at the first humans on the planet, this picture here talks about the first to use tools was 2.5 million years ago. Remember, that's different than the 4.5 billion years ago that the Earth was formed, okay? So as we look at hominids on the planet, right, the species primates have been on the planet for a long time, millions of years. But at some point, we started noticing the sky. When did we start noticing the sky? What we're going to consider, and you have a reading from Robbins to consider, is when did the primate brain and Homo sapiens come to the skill of actually being able to notice patterns in the sky, remember patterns in the sky, and then assign stories and mythologies around patterns in the sky. We're going to note that humans controlled fire about 500,000 years ago. That seems to be an important point where we may have spent more time outside as a species, right? That we can be outside safely, and we can socialize outside, and we can stand outside and talk about the sky. Something I'm going to highlight that you will find interesting maybe as you move through the material is one of the texts I chose is the Cultural History of Physics. And that author starts with Egypt and Mesopotamia in regard to like a timeline when to start looking at what I'm going to assume is a level of rational thought, right? When you think back to like Socrates and Plato and the original this is rational thought, that came from the early sort of what we know about papyrus and writing on paper in Mesopotamia, and everything that we know that was recorded in hieroglyphics and what was going on in Egypt. So we're looking at like 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, and what happened in that time, right? We can see this, there's 10,000 years ago, domestication of animals. There's already some organized culture going on 7,000 years ago. The pyramids here we can see are about 4,500 years ago. So we're looking at some time ago, and what I'm going to put here, and what a lot of people think, is that astronomy is arguably the oldest science. All right. From the Simone text, the Cultural History of Physics, This is a picture of the end of a bone. And what you see carved into it is what has been interpreted as a moon cycle. As we watch the moon go through the sky, and it has different sizes and different placements and the shape, this is an author's interpretation of it. And you can see there's an arrow here, and you can follow it through its phase, and some of these are lighter and some of these are darker. So we're seeing this on a bone, and this is 30,000 years ago. Okay, so when we're thinking about astronomy as a science on the planet, it's not new. It has been around thousands of years, all right? The oldest writing, like I was mentioning, happened in Sumer and Egypt, the Mesopotamia. What you see come across in this unit is that astronomy has always been deeply cultural. Throughout the whole history of astronomy, the sky has been used to navigate, for agriculture, for building societies, for asking big questions in a human being's life. What is the meaning of life? Where did we come from? Where are we going? What is important values? All of that is deeply cultural. So when we look at astronomical history and we look at what has been handed down to us through the ages, there's deeply, deeply saturated with culture. Advances also often come from cross-cultural exchange. So what we see is Greek knowledge move through the Islamic scholars into Europe. So that is the path for Western science, I would say. There's also Polynesian navigation informs modern astronomy education today. Okay, so there's no one preferred path into astronomy through my eyes. Modern astronomy is a global science drawing on indigenous knowledge and cutting-edge physics alike. All right, so we're going to integrate all of that into this class and starting this week. As a highlight, I wanted to talk about the Astronomy Across the Cultures text and Astronomy Across the World that I have selected for us for the course. I'm going to note, if you didn't already know, that primates originated in Africa, kind of in that region there, and distributed themselves throughout the continents from there, right? So when I looked at text and what cultures were included, I like the Astronomy Across the Cultures text because of how many cultures is included, all right? What we're going to see is there's a section in the text for the South Saharan cultures. There's Egyptian culture here. In here, the Sumerians were in here. We have the river. The Sumerians and the Mesopotamians are in here. This whole region in here, there's Islamic and Muslim astronomy in here. Indian, we have Indian astronomy. We have Indo-Tibetan astronomy is in there. We have all of China in here. China has a very, very long and important, culturally deeply important history with astronomy. There's Aboriginal history in Australia. All across Australia, all the different little factions of Aborigines and the indigenous people there, they all have different versions or different stories of the sky. We're looking at the Maori in New Zealand. We're going to be looking at Polynesians. We're going to be looking at Hawaiians up here. All of the Hawaiian, that is very, very, to me, interesting because it's almost a lost culture, the way that information disappeared. We'll get to it. What else is going on? We have the Southwest in America. We have Midwest. We have the, what else do we have? We have the Mesoamericans, and the people of the sun, right? And Incans. We definitely have the Incans in there. So when we look at where astronomy is practiced, where astronomy is observed, where we have historical accounts of different events through time, it is across the planet. It's not centralized in one location, and it is not prioritized by any one group. All right. It is a very diverse study. And what we're going to realize here is that the sky is a public domain. There's no one people on the planet that own it. The sky existed long before anything else, especially humans, and there's no one correct way to use it. No one owns it. It's largely governed by purpose in the culture, what the culture needs and the abstraction in the sky. Standard modern day accepted sky map exists. Okay, so to me, those are the constellations. And as we enter in this course, and you'll read this week, constellations are the scientific standard of the sky when we think about a map. They have been inherited across different cultures, a few main ones throughout time, and that is how we have a standard to refer to the sky. There are asterisms that are true outside of that. So my example here will be the constellations Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Those are constellations and are recognized by all of the scientific or astronomical studies people on the planet right now. So when we think about those two constellations, what's associated with them are the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper. The Big Dipper and Little Dipper are called asterisms. They're not the most common reference for those sets of stars. So please don't confuse constellations and asterisms, and do recognize that there is this standard that is accepted by people who study astronomy now. Do watch, though, whose stories get prioritized and embodied in a scientific standard. And I think this is true inside astronomy as well as outside astronomy. I'm not going to say much more about that now. We can let that be a topic that gets teased out as we move forward through the curriculum, but it can be an issue. Themes embedded by the sky are diverse. The Astronomy Across the Cultures text, the editor there, she did the first chapter, the introduction, and she outlines what she was able to abstract across all of the stories in that text of the themes embodied in the sky, what human beings have taken as important to us, our living, our culture, and embedded into the sky for us. Culture defines astronomical activities and interpretations. We have myths of origin and creation, power and divination, social structure and morals are stored in the sky. We have stories of sisters and lovers and hunters all in the sky. Religion and values, those relationships of those individuals, those mythologies in the sky, share with us what we value and how we think people should act and treat one another. Calendars of various purposes. We can use the sun to have days. We can use the moon to have months. We can use the stars to and the sun to recognize seasons. So we may be doing farming, right? That's a seasonal activity, and we can watch for things in the sky that tell us that seasons are changing or coming. We could also have a ritual calendar where each month, each 20 days, we have a ritual, and then the 20 days start over again, and we can watch the sky for indications of that. People have been navigating on the planet using the sky. I would say that's one of the first ways we can look at features on the landscape, but as our landscape changes, we need something that's static that we can always reference, and so we can use the sky for navigation. And even as far as predicting the future, if we get into astrology and different associated types of studies, humans try to predict the future. We search for a sense of security in the world. And what I'm brought out is a quote from the Krupp reading in the same text, the Astronomy Across Cultures text. The grand themes, first and last things, origins and endings are addressed in myth. It supplies accounts of the creation, structure, and development and ultimate destruction of the physical world, of the universe in which it resides, and of the cosmic order that governs its conduct. I think when I look at the sky, when anyone looks at the sky, it's easy to ask, how did we get here? Where are we? What are we made of? Where did this all come from, right? And so it's not just that the sky is here. I think it's easy for a modern human, and as I've been teaching this class, for people to say, I'm really disconnected from the sky. When I look back through history, how human beings have used the sky, I am so disconnected to it compared to what they were. And how we can use it to answer some of our most important questions. So in the Robbins reading, I have us focus on when did hominids begin using the sky and for what purposes, right? So let's go back to the original, like people, the first peoples who started really observing the sky. What were they doing? Why were they doing it? We're going to answer further questions as we move into the course, but this first unit I wanted to just focus on the foundations of astronomy, that first part of astronomy. Where did it start? And so I have us looking at cognition in human beings. There is a minimum amount of cognition, capacity, abilities that human beings, hominids, needed on the planet in order to process, memorize, notice patterns, and then even further create stories, abstractions, and myths around what's going on in the sky. So the first hominid use was limited by our cognition. So you'll have some reading and information on that. I put it in here. You can see I have Orion over here. I'm going to reference Orion a lot, I'm noticing, as an example of stories. The last thing I wanted to talk about here is just a little bit of advanced organizer about the sky above. I have another lesson put together that has us looking at the sky and becoming more oriented of the sky. We're looking at features of the celestial sphere, different celestial objects and references, basic celestial motions. We're going to get into that. And using an online planetarium, the Stellarium app or web page, I do recommend going ahead and installing the Stellarium app onto a portable computing device, whether that is your smartphone or a tablet or similar, that you download Stellarium into there, because you can take it outside and look up at the sky. And that will be part of the practice for our course. We're going to identify celestial features and objects with this. The web page may be useful, and I have different assignments where the web page may be more useful to view the sky than the app on a phone or tablet. I have over here another screenshot here of Orion. All right. And so when you're looking at Orion, I would expect you by the end of this week, or at least by the end of the course, to be able to find Orion in the sky. And one of the most prominent features of Orion is Orion's belt. Oh, you can't see that very well. Orion's belt. Let me get a color you can see better. A bright pink is standing out to me. There's Orion's belt. Okay. So can you find that in the sky? We're going to note, I'll talk about this a little bit, Orion's belt points at Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. Very interesting, right? Orion is a character who interplays with the constellation Taurus. Taurus is over here, and you can see the star Aldebaran in Taurus. And another thing that's in Taurus over here, you can't see it, it's off the screen, is Pleiades, is like the heart of the bull over here. So when we're looking at the sky, I need you to be able to locate objects. I need you to be able to identify objects. And each week we're going to build on that. This week, Like I said, we're going to be looking at features of the celestial sphere. We're just getting oriented to the sky, to the different features that we're going to use as we move forward and look the sky in more depth. So hopefully this lesson has helped you anticipate and organize the information as we move through the assignments this week.